Imagine standing at a crossroads, not just once, but repeatedly throughout life, at every shift in career, relationship, passion, setback, or opportunity. In those moments, when certainty falters and self-doubt whispers louder than encouragement, what wisdom guides you? What voices help you choose not merely the familiar road, but the right one? The path that elevates meaning over ego, capability over comfort, and action over anxiety. Tribe of Mentors by Timothy Ferriss is not a typical self-help book. It is a curated mosaic of insights from over 100 high achievers across disciplines: entrepreneurs, athletes, writers, philosophers, scientists, actors, and thought leaders, each answering the same set of probing questions about life, struggle, habits, priorities, and resilience. Instead of telling you what to do, it teaches you how to think with clarity, purpose, and courage. If you love powerful, insightful, and life-changing books, then you've found the right channel. Every week, we break down the ideas that transform mindsets, elevate success, and shift lives. So don't miss out. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because you'll want to catch every book we review. Let's continue. From the outset, one senses that Ferriss is driven by a deep conviction that the people we surround ourselves with, even virtually through their words, shape us in profound ways. Show me your tribe, as the old adage goes, and I'll show you your future. This book's wisdom comes not from a single guru, but from a tribe of mentors, each reinforcing that there is no single blueprint to success, but there are patterns worth embracing. In the introduction itself, Ferriss describes a difficult period in his life, a time when loss, stress, and existential questioning led him to seek clarity not from his own experience alone, but from the aggregated wisdom of the world's most effective thinkers. What emerged is a philosophy rooted not in perfection, but in practice, not in ease, but in courage, and not in certainty, but in curiosity. This narrative begins with a lesson that echoes the Stoic insight of Marcus Aurelius: life expands and contracts in proportion to one's courage. The mentors Ferriss profiles do not promise unbroken confidence, nor do they claim a fixed formula. Rather, they teach practical courage, the courage to ask hard questions, to make hard decisions, and to persist in uncertainty. Purpose emerges through questions, not answers. The first insight dawns early. Success is not a destination, but a series of intentional questions. Many mentors highlighted that what distinguishes high performers is not that they have perfect answers, it's that they ask better questions. A Zen proverb captures this aptly: "He who asks a question remains a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever." This perspective challenges the common belief that we become wise by accumulating answers. Instead, growth begins when we learn to look deeper. When a mentor asks, "What decision would I make if I knew I couldn't fail?" or "What's the question I'm afraid to ask?" the lesson is clear. Thoughtful inquiry leads to thoughtful action. Take the example of Yuval Harari, whose reflections in the book emphasize emotional intelligence and ongoing learning as essential in a fast-changing world. He points out that in the future, success won't come from narrow specialization alone. Adaptability and lifelong learning will dominate the workforce. This isn't mere speculation. With automation transforming economies from Nigeria to Silicon Valley, individuals must cultivate learning agility to remain relevant. Similarly, Kevin Kelly insists that fear of the unknown is usually more daunting than reality itself, a lesson many entrepreneurs learn when launching startups amidst uncertainty. This aligns with the ancient wisdom of Seneca: we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. First steps are more important than big plans. Another recurring theme is humility before action. Many mentors emphasize that any forward step, even if imperfect, teaches more than waiting for the perfect plan. This lesson resonates with a quote often repeated in the book: "The real work often begins with showing up." It's not glamorous, but it's essential. Take the example of Dustin Moskovitz, co-founder of Facebook, who reminds us that while one cannot control bad events, one can control responses to them.
This teaches that resilience, the mindset of reacting with composure and purpose, makes you stronger than any initial disadvantage. In the United States, many startups follow this same pattern. Rather than waiting for perfect market fit, they release early and iterate, learning from real-world feedback. Globally, artists, social entrepreneurs, and activists demonstrate similar patterns. They create imperfectly, adjust courageously, and grow practically. This lesson leads organically to a broader psychological insight. Fear diminishes action. For too many people, fear lives in possibility, what if it fails, until we take the first step. Once we act, fear loses its power and learning takes over. This transformation from paralysis to motion is not just tactical, it is liberating. Routines ground us, but values propel us. A unifying thread among many mentors is the importance of intentional routines, especially morning rituals. From meditation and journaling to exercise and reflection, these routines act as anchors in chaos.
Why does this matter? Because when daily life becomes reactive, stress increases, goals blur, and clarity fades. Establishing routines cultivates resilience and mental presence. In the words of one mentor, if you don't control your first moments of the day, you give away your agency. Consider global athletes like marathon runners and Olympians, many of whom train before dawn, not solely for physical conditioning, but for mental discipline. Their performance comes not from talent alone, but from habitual practice, the repeated daily choice to prepare when ease tempts them to rest. In the U.S., executives credit morning routines for grounding focus, reducing stress, and sharpening priorities. This practice shows that discipline is not restriction, it's liberation through consistency. Yet routines alone are not enough when they become aimless. A deeper insight connects routines to values. Without values, why we do something, routines can become hollow. For example, a habit of stepping outside at sunrise becomes meaningful only if it reinforces your values of health, clarity, or presence. Otherwise, it becomes another unchecked task. This lesson leads to a deeper question each mentor confronts. What do you prioritize when no one is watching? The answer to this question reveals values more clearly than any resume or social profile. And this introspection is central to building a life aligned with purpose rather than performance. Resilience is built through embracing discomfort. A powerful undercurrent in the book is that discomfort breeds growth. Many mentors shared not their triumphs, but their failures, and how each setback ultimately taught resilience. This philosophy mirrors the Stoic principle taught by Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, obstacles are not detours, they are the path. This principle shapes how great minds interpret adversity, not as punishment, but as training. For instance, Jocko Willink, a former U.S. Navy SEAL, teaches absolute ownership. When things go wrong, leaders must not blame circumstances or others, they must take responsibility. This extreme accountability dissolves victimhood and empowers problem-solving. Globally, this mindset shows up in social movements where leaders rise from adversity. Consider Malala Yousafzai's resilience after an assassination attempt, a literal rebirth of purpose that made her an international advocate for education. In Nigeria, many entrepreneurs launch ventures in the face of infrastructure challenges, learning flexibility and grit that seasoned economies sometimes fail to teach. These stories reinforce another lesson. Failures are not endpoints, they are teachers. The mentors share not fairy tales of effortless ascent, but testimonies of resilience forged through challenge, illustrating that the path to mastery is iterative, winding, and often uncomfortable. As the voices in Tribe of Mentors continue to unfold, a striking realization becomes unavoidable. Most people do not fail because they lack talent or intelligence, but because they live reactively rather than intentionally.
The mentors Ferriss gathered did not stumble into clarity by accident. They designed their lives, deliberately, sometimes painfully, by aligning decisions with values instead of convenience. This insight builds naturally from the earlier lessons on asking better questions and taking imperfect action. Once action replaces paralysis, a deeper responsibility emerges, choosing what not to do. Many mentors emphasize that subtraction, not addition, is the key to excellence. The world constantly demands more attention, more productivity, more engagement, yet wisdom lies in restraint. Greg McKeown's philosophy of essentialism echoes through the book's pages. If you don't prioritize your life, someone else will. This truth has never been more relevant. In the US, burnout culture has pushed professionals to work longer hours while producing diminishing returns. Globally, digital overload has blurred the boundaries between rest and labor. The mentor's solution is not hustle without end, but clarity without compromise. Consider Warren Buffett's famous stop doing list. Rather than focusing only on what to pursue, he deliberately avoids distractions that dilute focus. This principle applies universally. African entrepreneurs navigating unstable markets must choose focus ruthlessly. Artists worldwide who succeed long-term often say no to short-term applause in favor of deep craft. The lesson is clear. Discipline is not restriction, it is protection of what matters most. This discipline leads to another realization. Time is the only non-renewable resource, and how it is spent reveals priorities more honestly than any intentions ever could. Many mentors reflect on mortality not morbidly, but as a compass. One recurring question Ferriss asks contributors is, if this were the last year of your life, how would you change how you live? The answers consistently point towards relationships, contribution, and meaning, not accumulation. This resonates with the philosopher Martin Heidegger, who argued that authentic living begins when one confronts finitude. Similarly, Steve Jobs' famous reminder, "Remembering that you are going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose," captures the mindset shared by many mentors. Awareness of impermanence strips away trivial anxieties and sharpens focus on what truly matters. From this awareness emerges the next embedded lesson. Success without alignment is failure in disguise. Several mentors admit that reaching conventional success only intensified dissatisfaction until they realigned with purpose. In the US, this is visible in executives leaving high-paying roles to pursue teaching, nonprofit work, or entrepreneurship. Globally, similar patterns appear among professionals abandoning prestige to return to community-centered living.
This is not romantic escapism. It is psychological realism. Without alignment, achievement becomes a treadmill. With alignment, even modest work becomes fulfilling. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus expressed this succinctly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Tribe of Mentors reinforces that identity precedes strategy. As alignment deepens, the mentors emphasize self-knowledge over self-promotion. In a world obsessed with visibility, many contributors argue that solitude, reflection, and silence are underrated superpowers. Meditation, journaling, and long walks appear repeatedly, not as spiritual indulgences, but as tools for clarity. Neuroscience now confirms what ancient philosophy long taught: stillness improves judgment. In American corporate culture, mindfulness has moved from fringe practice to boardroom necessity. Globally, monastic traditions, indigenous rituals, and contemplative practices have always served this purpose. The lesson threading through these examples is simple yet profound. A noisy mind cannot make wise decisions. This clarity prepares individuals for the inevitable presence of fear. Fear is not treated in Tribe of Mentors as an enemy to eliminate, but as a signal to interpret. Tim Ferriss himself often references the Stoic exercise of fear setting, defining worst-case scenarios, their probabilities, and their reversibility. When fear is named, it shrinks. When ignored, it dominates. This approach mirrors the thinking of Seneca, who advised rehearsing adversity so it loses its sting. Many mentors recount moments where fear nearly prevented them from acting, starting companies, publishing work, leaving relationships, or speaking truth. Yet those who acted despite fear discovered a consistent truth: regret weighs heavier than failure. Globally, this lesson manifests in activists who speak despite threats, immigrants who rebuild lives in unfamiliar lands, and artists who create despite rejection. In the US, creators launching independent platforms reflect this courage, choosing uncertainty over stagnation. Fear does not disappear, courage expands. As courage grows, another lesson emerges naturally. Mentorship is not about imitation, but integration. Ferriss does not present these mentors as idols to copy, but as perspectives to test. What works for one person may fail another. The real value lies in extracting principles, not replicating routines. This insight counters the dangerous myth of universal formulas. Morning routines, productivity hacks, and success rituals only work when aligned with individual temperament and context. A startup founder in Lagos will not operate like a Silicon Valley investor. A parent in rural India will not structure life like a New York executive. The mentor's diversity reinforces this. There are many paths, but the principles of clarity, courage, and consistency remain universal. This adaptability is essential in a rapidly changing world. Technology, geopolitics, and economic structures shift faster than ever. Many mentors emphasize learning how to learn as the most valuable skill. Static expertise decays, adaptive intelligence compounds. This aligns with the philosopher Heraclitus, who observed, "No man ever steps in the same river twice." In practical terms, this means staying curious, humble, and willing to update beliefs. American companies now value adaptability over tenure. Globally, lifelong learning platforms flourish because people recognize that relevance requires evolution. The lesson embedded here is clear. Identity must be flexible enough to grow without shattering. As learning accelerates, relationships take center stage. Success, mentors argue, is rarely solitary, yet meaningful relationships require intentional cultivation. Many contributors stress the importance of surrounding oneself with people who challenge rather than flatter. Comfort may soothe the ego, but friction sharpens growth. This mirrors Aristotle's distinction between friendships of pleasure, utility, and virtue. The deepest relationships, those built on shared values, sustain individuals through hardship. In American entrepreneurial ecosystems, mastermind groups serve this role. Globally, communal cultures have long understood that resilience is collective. However, relationships also demand boundaries. Several mentors warn against overgiving, people-pleasing, and losing oneself in service. True generosity requires self-respect. This balance reflects the Buddhist concept of the middle way, neither self-neglect nor selfishness, but conscious equilibrium. From this balance arises leadership, not as dominance, but as example. The mentors redefine leadership as personal responsibility lived publicly. Influence flows naturally from integrity. Whether in business, family, or community, people follow those who embody clarity, courage, and consistency. This principle is visible globally. Leaders like Jacinda Ardern earned respect through empathy and decisiveness. Community leaders worldwide gain trust by serving visibly. In the US, movements increasingly reject charismatic authority in favor of authentic stewardship. The lesson is unmistakable. Leadership is less about position and more about presence.
As this part closes, the accumulated wisdom reveals a coherent philosophy. Life is not meant to be optimized endlessly, but aligned deeply. Success without meaning is hollow. Discipline without purpose is brittle. Knowledge without courage stagnates. But when clarity guides action, fear becomes fuel, and time becomes intentional. The mentors do not promise certainty. They promise something more valuable: agency, the power to choose deliberately, to learn continuously, and to live courageously in a complex world. This prepares us for the final stage of the journey, where wisdom turns into legacy and success transforms into significance. As the insights of Tribe of Mentors mature, the conversation subtly shifts from how to build a successful life to how to live a significant one. This transition is not announced loudly, yet it becomes unavoidable. Once clarity is achieved, habits are aligned, fear is managed, and learning becomes adaptive. A deeper question emerges beneath all ambition. What is all of this for? Many mentors acknowledge that achievement alone, while intoxicating at first, eventually loses its power to satisfy. What replaces it is the hunger for impact beyond the self. This realization does not negate ambition, it refines it. The mentors collectively reveal that fulfillment evolves from accumulation to contribution, from identity to service, from winning to giving meaning. This progression echoes Viktor Frankl's enduring insight. The more one forgets himself by giving himself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human he is. Ferriss's mentors consistently affirm this truth, not as sentiment, but as lived experience. In the American context, this evolution is visible in entrepreneurs who exit successful companies only to pursue philanthropy, education, or public service. Globally, it appears in elders who become teachers, artists who mentor younger creatives, and professionals who shift from competition to stewardship. The lesson unfolds organically. True success matures into responsibility. Responsibility, however, demands humility. One of the most surprising undercurrents in the book is how often mentors speak about unlearning. The more experienced they become, the less attached they are to certainty. This humility is not weakness, it is precision. In a rapidly changing world, rigidity is a liability. This insight resonates with Socrates' famous declaration, "I know that I know nothing." The mentors do not cling to dogma. They test, revise, discard, and rebuild. American investors emphasize adaptability over genius. Global innovators stress listening over broadcasting. Wisdom, it turns out, is not loud, it is responsive. As humility deepens, another embedded lesson emerges. Identity must remain fluid. Many mentors caution against tying self-worth to roles, titles, or outputs. When identity becomes fixed, change feels like loss. When identity is flexible, change feels like evolution. This lesson is painfully relevant in modern society. In the US, professionals who define themselves solely by career suffer deeply when layoffs occur. Globally, cultural shifts and automation disrupt traditional identities at scale. The mentors suggest a more resilient approach. Identify not with what you do, but how you engage. Curiosity, discipline, service, creativity. This mindset aligns with the Buddhist concept of non-attachment, not as detachment from life, but as freedom within it. When identity loosens, learning accelerates, relationships deepen, and fear loses leverage. The self becomes a process rather than a possession. With this freedom comes a clearer understanding of failure's true role. Earlier lessons reframed failure as feedback. Here, failure is revealed as a refining fire for character. Several mentors admit that their most defining moments were not their wins, but the crises that forced them to reevaluate values. In recent times, global crises, pandemics, economic downturns, social upheaval have served this function collectively. Individuals and societies alike were forced to ask, what truly matters? In the US, conversations shifted towards mental health, flexibility, and work-life integration. Globally, communities rediscovered mutual aid and resilience. The lesson embedded here is unmistakable. Crisis clarifies priorities. As priorities sharpen, mentors emphasize the importance of long-term thinking. Short-term wins are seductive, but they often undermine sustainable success. Many contributors reference playing infinite games, building systems, relationships, and reputations that compound over time. This idea mirrors Simon Sinek's philosophy and extends into ancient wisdom. The Roman philosopher Cicero wrote, "The life of the dead is placed in the memory of the living." Legacy, then, is not built through bursts of intensity, but through consistency of character. In business, this means trust over tactics. In relationships, it means presence over performance. In leadership, it means stewardship over control. American companies that prioritize long-term culture outperform those chasing quarterly optics. Globally, civilizations endure when values outlast rulers. The mentors consistently reinforce this principle through lived example. As the narrative deepens, mortality enters the conversation again, not as fear, but as focus. Several mentors openly discuss death, illness, and loss, not to provoke despair, but to awaken urgency. Awareness of mortality sharpens gratitude and accelerates courage. This perspective aligns with the Stoic practice of memento mori, remembering death to live fully. When time is recognized as finite, procrastination loses appeal, resentment dissolves faster, and meaningful conversations take precedence. In a world obsessed with optimization, this lesson grounds ambition in humanity. From mortality emerges compassion, not as abstraction, but as daily practice. The mentors describe compassion not as indulgence, but as strength paired with understanding. Effective leaders, parents, and creators learn to balance high standards with empathy. This balance sustains excellence without cruelty.
In global contexts, this is evident in community-driven leadership models. In the U.S., it appears in trauma-informed workplaces and education systems. Compassion does not lower expectations, it humanizes them. As Dalai Lama observed, if you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion. This compassion naturally extends inward. Self-compassion becomes a recurring, understated theme. Many mentors warn against the silent cost of self-criticism. Discipline without kindness breeds burnout. Excellence without grace erodes joy. This insight reframes productivity culture. The most enduring performers are not the harshest on themselves, but the most sustainable. They recover quickly, forgive mistakes, and re-engage with clarity. American athletes, global artists, and resilient leaders all echo this truth. Progress accelerates when shame is removed from the process. As self-compassion stabilizes effort, gratitude enters as a grounding force. Several mentors describe daily gratitude practices, not as positivity rituals, but as perceptual recalibration. Gratitude trains attention towards sufficiency rather than scarcity. This practice has global resonance. Psychological studies in the U.S. confirm its impact on well-being. Indigenous cultures worldwide have long embedded gratitude into daily rituals. The lesson unfolds quietly. What we appreciate expands, what we obsess over contracts. From gratitude emerges generosity, not performative giving, but thoughtful contribution. Many mentors describe supporting others quietly, funding education, mentoring anonymously, sharing platforms. This generosity reflects an understanding that success multiplies when shared. This principle challenges zero-sum thinking. In competitive cultures, generosity is often mistaken for weakness, yet the mentors demonstrate the opposite. Generosity builds networks, trust, and meaning. It transforms success into significance. As the narrative nears culmination, Ferriss's role becomes clearer. He is not presenting heroes to worship, but mirrors to reflect from. Each mentor offers fragments of a larger truth,
Life is not meant to be hacked into perfection, but crafted with intention. The book ultimately teaches that mentors are not replacements for thinking, they are catalysts for it. Wisdom is not transferred wholesale, it is metabolized. Readers are invited to build their own tribe, curate their influences, and choose their principles deliberately. This returns us to the opening premise: who you listen to shapes who you become. In an age of infinite noise, attention is destiny. The mentors urge discernment, fewer voices, deeper engagement, longer horizons. As Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote, "The only person you're destined to become is the person you decide to be." Tribe of Mentors reinforces this decision again and again through failure, fear, success, and service. By the end of this part of the book, the philosophy stands fully formed. Live deliberately, learn continuously, act courageously, serve generously, think long-term, remain human. These are not slogans, they are habits shaped by choice. As Tribe of Mentors reaches its deepest layer, what becomes clear is that the book is not truly about success, habits, or even mentorship. It is about choice, the quiet, often unseen decisions that shape the arc of a life. Every insight shared by the mentors ultimately points back to one central truth: you are always choosing, whether consciously or by default. Earlier lessons showed how clarity replaces confusion, how courage weakens fear, and how discipline protects meaning. Now, these threads converge into a final realization. A meaningful life is not discovered, it is constructed through repeated, values-driven choices. Many mentors stress that most suffering does not come from failure itself, but from misalignment. People feel lost not because they lack options, but because they pursue goals inherited from others, culture, family, comparison, without examining whether those goals belong to them. The result is a life that looks successful from the outside, yet feels hollow within. This insight is painfully relevant today. In the United States, achievement culture rewards speed, visibility, and accumulation. Globally, social media exports these metrics everywhere, creating a universal pressure to perform. Yet the mentors consistently reject this model. They advocate for internal scorecards, personal definitions of enough, success, and progress. This echoes Marcus Aurelius, who warned, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." To begin living, the mentors suggest, one must first stop outsourcing identity. As identity becomes self-authored, attention turns to craft, doing fewer things better with care. Many contributors argue that mastery is not about domination, but devotion. Whether in writing, investing, parenting, teaching, or leadership, excellence emerges from presence, not pressure. In recent years, this lesson has resurfaced globally as a backlash against burnout. American professionals now question grind culture. Worldwide, movements towards slow living, deep work, and craftsmanship gain momentum. The mentors anticipated this shift. Quality compounds when speed no longer leads. Craft naturally leads to patience. Impatience, several mentors argue, is the hidden enemy of fulfillment. People abandon paths too early, relationships too quickly, and ideas too soon, not because they are wrong, but because results are slow. Yet nearly every meaningful outcome described in the book took years, sometimes decades. This patience reflects Confucius's wisdom. It does not matter how slowly you go, as long as you do not stop. In an era of instant metrics, patience becomes rebellion and power. With patience comes resilience. The mentors redefined resilience not as toughness alone, but as the ability to remain open after disappointment. Cynicism, they warn, is the real failure. Those who stay curious, generous, and hopeful despite setbacks continue to grow. Those who harden stagnate. This insight is visible in global recovery stories, entrepreneurs rebuilding after collapse, communities healing after conflict, individuals reinventing after loss. In the United States, second acts often surpass first successes. Resilience, then, is not endurance for its own sake, but faith in iteration.
Iteration requires forgiveness, especially self-forgiveness. Several mentors describe moments where guilt, regret, or shame stalled progress more than any external obstacle. Letting go was not about erasing the past, but releasing its authority over the present. This aligns with Nietzsche's idea of amor fati, loving one's fate, not because it was perfect, but because it shaped strength. When mistakes are integrated rather than denied, wisdom emerges. As wisdom accumulates, the mentors emphasize the importance of passing it forward. Teaching, mentoring, and sharing knowledge are not acts of ego, but continuity. They ensure that lessons outlive individuals. Legacy, in this sense, is not monuments or fame, but impact multiplied through others. Globally, cultures that prioritize elders and teachers preserve wisdom across generations. In the U.S., mentorship programs increasingly address inequality by widening access to guidance. The mentors reinforce this timeless principle: what you hoard decays, what you share evolves. Yet legacy also requires discernment. Not every opinion must be voiced, not every battle must be fought. Several mentors highlight the strength of restraint, choosing silence over noise, depth over reaction. In a hyper-opinionated world, intentional silence becomes authority. This restraint mirrors Lao Tzu's teaching: he who knows does not speak, he who speaks does not know. The mentors are not loud because they do not need to be. Their lives speak. As the journey concludes, a final synthesis emerges. Freedom is not the absence of obligation, but the alignment of obligation with values. True freedom comes from choosing responsibilities that matter: family, craft, community, service, and releasing those that do not. This reframes discipline as devotion, effort as expression, and success as stewardship. The mentors show that fulfillment is not ease, but meaningful difficulty. Timothy Ferriss's role, ultimately, is that of a curator rather than a guru. He does not dictate a single path. Instead, he offers a mosaic of lived philosophies, inviting readers to assemble their own. The book trusts the reader's intelligence, a rare and respectful gesture. As the final pages echo, one truth remains unmistakable: you do not need permission to live deliberately. You do not need consensus to define success. You do not need certainty to begin. You need courage, not the loud, cinematic kind, but the quiet courage to be misunderstood, to disappoint expectations, and to choose a life aligned with your inner compass. This returns us full circle to a universal philosophical truth articulated by Søren Kierkegaard: life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. The mentors offer hindsight as guidance, not prophecy. The future remains yours to shape. In the end, Tribe of Mentors is not about building an extraordinary life by copying extraordinary people. It is about becoming intentional enough to live an ordinary life extraordinarily well, with clarity, courage, contribution, and compassion. That is the quiet power the book offers, and that power, once recognized, cannot be taken away. If this message resonated with you, subscribe and join us for more wisdom that fuels growth.